Hello, I'm Jerry Fort. Gonna read a story out of this book here called The Scary States of America, 50 Weird and Terrifying Stories, one from each state based on true events by Michael Teitelbaum. Alright, so the story I'm gonna read today comes from Washington. It's called UFOs Welcome Here. All right. What is it about Washington State? It's like someone put up a giant sign that said, UFOs welcome here. More UFO sightings have been reported in Washington than any of the other 49 scary states. Excuse me. I've been collecting these cases and compiling a history of what should be nicknamed the Close Encounter State. The earliest record I found of a UFO sighting in Washington State dates back to the 1930s. For a period of years during that decade, farmers near the town of Glenwood repeatedly reported seeing rectangular shapes in the sky. Over a mile long and a half, a mile wide, blocking out the midday sun. In mid-June 1947, a private pilot named Kenneth Arnold was flying near Mount Rainier when he encountered 9 metallic discs zipping through the air. Please excuse my nasally sound while I'm reading. I'm just getting over a cold, so I hope it doesn't keep you from understanding what I'm saying. In describing the incident, Arnold coined the term flying saucer. A few weeks later, the famous Roswell, New Mexico incident occurred, throwing flying saucers into the consciousness of the American people. But even though Roswell got a lot of attention, Washington beats New Mexico any day in terms of sheer numbers. Since the 1940s, the U.S. Air Force has investigated over 15,000 UFO sightings in the state of Washington. But the story that freaked me out the most came from 10-year-old Charlotte Jameson, who lives just outside Seattle. Here's the email she sent me. I know all about the UFO sightings in Washington. Well, I live in Washington, but I never thought I'd star in a UFO story myself. It started a few months ago. My family lives in a small town outside of Seattle, and it can get really quiet after dark. One night, I had just gotten into bed and was reading before I fell asleep. I heard a low humming sound that started off really soft and gradually got louder as I listened. Then a flash of bright white light shot through my window and right into my room. I jumped out of bed and ran to the window, but by then the light had vanished. I thought about waking my parents, but they both get up early for work and were already asleep. Maybe I just dozed for a second and dreamed about the light. I got back into bed and tried to focus on my book, but the same thing happened a minute later. The bright light swept into the room. Again, I jumped from my bed, only this time when I got to the window, I saw a shiny gold circle hovering just above the trees. And that's when the weirdest thing happened. It was like the circle saw me. It zoomed to my window and a brighter light poured in, filling my room. I felt warm and a little dizzy. Then I got real scared. Mom! I yelled as I ran from my room and into my parents' bedroom. But somehow, the white light followed me down the hall. When I got to my parents' room, I could see they were sound asleep. Mom! Dad! I screamed. They didn't move. Wake up! Wake up! Still, they didn't stir. My mom was usually a very light sleeper. Now I was really freaked out. I ran to their bed and went to shake my mom, but my hand passed right through her. It was like she was made of light. Mom! I screamed, but I couldn't touch her, and she couldn't hear me. Was she even real? What had happened to my parents? I spun around and the light shined directly on me. It had curved through the hallway and entered the room. It was like a giant snake following me. "What's happening?" I yelled, once again trying to shake my mom and then my dad. My hand passed right through their bodies, and then suddenly the light disappeared, and I was standing in complete darkness. The next thing I knew, I was waking up in my bed. It was morning, and I had no memory of what had happened the night before. Now I remember everything, but then it was like a normal morning. I was fine. My parents were fine. I got up and headed for school as if nothing had happened, because in my mind, nothing had. Until that night. Again, I was lying in bed reading when a bright white light shot through the window, and that's when I remembered everything. It's come back to get me. Terror shot through my whole body. I jumped from my bed, but the light had already seen me. It bent toward me, and I dived under my bed to hide. "Go away, go away." I was scared to call out for my mom because I didn't want the light to find me. I was also terrified by what had happened to my parents last night. Maybe it would happen again. Maybe this time they would never wake up. I peeked out from under my bed. My heart was racing. I watched the light sweep across the room. It was definitely searching for me. It moved up the wall and then across and back down to the floor. It was heading my way. The light moved under the bed and slithered toward me. In a second, it would see me. I bolted from under the bed and ran to my door. The light saw me and followed. "Help!" I screamed, but no one emerged from my parents' room. This time I ran downstairs, hoping the light wouldn't be able to follow me there. I reached the bottom of the stairs. No light. Maybe I got away. Maybe it will leave me alone. Those are actually questions. Maybe I got away? Maybe it will leave me alone? I stopped in the downstairs hallway and looked around. Still no light. I stepped into the living room. The light blasted through the large living room window, just missing me. I screamed and ran into the kitchen. I saw flashes of white coming from the living room. I knew it was searching for me. I knew it would find me. Then the light disappeared, and the house was dark. I turned to check the kitchen window, and the light caught me full in the face. Again, I felt warm and dizzy. I ran back up the stairs, but it had found me, and it wasn't letting go. I felt heat on my back as I rounded the stairs into the hallway and turned into my parents' room. "Wake up!" I yelled, but they didn't move. I was scared to touch them again, but I had to know. Again, my hand passed through them like they were mere optical illusion. Then the room grew dark. Once again, I woke up in my bed with no memory of what had happened. As I stepped from the shower that morning and passed the bathroom mirror, I caught a glimpse of my back. "Mom!" I screamed in terror. She came running into the bathroom. "Charlotte, what happened?" she asked, her face pale. "Look!" I cried, suddenly remembering everything. "Look what they did to me. They're on my back. They're on my back. Snaked along. They're on my back. Snaked along. Red scar." "Oh my God, how did this happen?" my mom cried. I broke down crying as memories of what had happened to me flooded my mind. A spaceship, a blindly white room, the tiny faceless creatures who held me down and cut me open as they poured images of my home and parents into my mind to prevent me from struggling. The chase, none of that was real. It was a virtual reality to keep me distracted and confused. That's why I couldn't touch my parents. I wasn't really in their room. They had tricked me at the time. Into thinking I was home. But now it all came rushing back to me, the whole horrible operation. My mom called 911 and an ambulance rushed me to the hospital. They say people can live with one kidney, but what if they come back for more? Wow. That's freaky, man. Okay. There you go, Washington. If you enjoy books like this, you collect paranormal books, get you a copy of this one. You really might like having this in your collection. The Scary States of America, 50 Weird and Terrifying Stories, one from each state based on true events by this guy, Michael Teitelbaum. All right. Yeah, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. We'll see you on the next one.